Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be doing some makeup first aid. Before we begin, I just want to say I know my wings look different than usual and they're also very uneven. I was trying out a new angle for my wings and a new look. I don't know if I like it yet or not, but that's why they're uneven. I haven't done this shape before. It's a little new to me. Also, this is just going to be a shorter video. The reason I'm doing this video is because I have to do 2 videos this week because I'm trying to pre-film this one so that it's ready to go for next week because I'm going on a trip and so I won't be back until Wednesday and so I won't have time to edit next week. So I'm trying to get 2 videos done in 1 week, so I'm trying to do a quicker one today. But this is also a video I've been wanting to do for a really long time, several months now, just because these are products I've had kind of rotting in my makeup drawers for a while that I haven't really known what to do, and this is going to be my video where I try to fix them. So the 2 main things we're going to be doing is we're going to be figuring out how to make these Colourpop Jelly Much shadows usable again once they've dried out. These are pretty hard. They kind of come off glittery on the finger, but there's no you can't really use them at all because they're so dried up. And all of mine have dried out. I have 3 here that I'm going to try to revive. And then I also have a bunch of just broken pressed powders that I've dropped. I have this butter bronzer that I haven't been able to throw out because I love it too much, but it's in shambles. So I'm gonna try to fix her. And then I also have these 2 palettes. So I have this Anastasia Moonchild palette that I literally broke on the way home from the store. I got it from Marshalls or something, so it was discounted. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll get this discounted because these aren't colors he'll use every day. So I wouldn't want to get it full price, but they are pretty nice shades. But as you can see, these 2 are totally shattered. And then these ones are kind of crumbly. I feel like these 2 I might leave as they are just because it's not bad enough damage wise to feel like I need to do anything, but I want to try to fix these 2 guys. And then I also have this KVD Alchemist Holographic palette. And there's 3 fine shades in here, but this one is also shattered on the way home from the store. So I'm going to try to fix those 3. What you'll need for this is, for the Jelly Much shadows, all you really need is micellar water. For the powders, I have 70% isopropyl alcohol, rubbing alcohol. Anything 70% and higher should be good. I haven't tried with 50%. Actually, I went to the dollar store to try to get 50% alcohol and they didn't have any. They were just all out. So I went to the grocery store and this was what they had. And I don't know if lower ones will be as effective. I haven't seen anybody do this with anything less than 70%. So I would aim for that. And you'd also need plastic wrap, and then you'd also need for both of these just something to mix with. A lot of people were using metal spatulas or toothpicks or whatever. I'm just using the back of a brush because I don't have anything else. Cool, so just because it's easier, let's start off with the Jelly Much shadows. So with these, they're water-based, which is why you can't use alcohol. And you also don't want alcohol because it would just dry them out. So with this, you would just take your micellar water. Any micellar water is fine. You just want something water-based for this. But I wouldn't use tap water just because of the other the minerals and stuff in tap water. You don't know how that would necessarily react. I don't know if it would just do the same thing or not, but I'm not a chemist, so I know this works. I'm not so sure about tap water, so just be careful, but just whatever you're using, make sure it's at least water-based. That's the bare minimum, just because these are water-based products. So you're just gonna take a couple drops and just drip them in there, and then take whatever you're mixing with and just start mixing until it starts to look like how it did before. I think I need a little more water than what I already put in. Basically, how much water you need will depend on how dry yours is. If these are just kind of the texture is a little different, then you're not gonna need much. But if they are totally dry like mine are, you're gonna need a lot more water. But basically, you just want to get this back to the consistency it was before, and it'll just take a little bit of mixing. Just scrape things away from the sides of the container and just start to mix things together. This is already kind of starting to form. A jelly texture like it was before. And once you've mixed these, once you make them jelly texture and you mix them totally up and you make sure there are no clumps and everything is soft again, you can just use them they're ready to go. With the powders, you would want to wait for them to dry and the alcohol to totally evaporate. So with those, I'm going to do it and then I'm going to leave it and then come back later today and check on them and see how they're doing. So I've been mixing this for a good few minutes and it's totally mushy now. Honestly, it's been so long, I can't even remember what the original texture of this was, but I feel okay with this, how it is now. You could probably, if you wanted to go a little more liquid, you could just add more. The thing with the micellar water is it's also just going to evaporate, so it's not a huge deal if you put too much. These will also probably dry out again in a few months, just because of the way it is, but you can just always bring them back to life with the micellar water trick. So yeah, I feel like this is good enough for me. I'm just gonna swatch it on my hand. And there you go, see, it totally works again. It's totally swatchable. It's totally usable on the eye. It's not just like emitting powder anymore. So good enough for me. I'm gonna put the lid back on that guy. I wish I'd known this trick earlier because I remember there was a couple Halloweens where I wanted to use these and I just like couldn't get them to work. And so I just like didn't. I just ended up using other things on my eye, even though I knew like these would have been like the perfect makeup product for like what I was trying to do. But unfortunately I just like did not know then what I know now. Like I didn't know you could, once these were dry, you could bring them back to life. Let's just do one. I have 3 here, but I'm just gonna do one more just so I have something to compare with. Let's do a lighter color. Let's do this Perfectly Wretched. So the one I did before was Just Your Voice. I have all the ones from the Villains collection, so these are all the ones I'm gonna be doing. So this is Perfectly Wretched. It's like a very pale color. I don't know if I ended up using this one. Yes, let's see, like once again, it's like pretty hard. If I tried to swatch this now, it would just be like, it's just like loose glitter, really. It doesn't really, it's like, it's not terrible, but it's also not great. Just drop it in. Okay, so I use a little more in this one. So we'll see how that like changes the texture, especially because this one is a lighter color. Need a little more. Okay, there we go. So this one is totally jelly-like now again too. And if I were to go and swatch it on my hand next to that earlier swatch, as you can see, this was the one from before and this is what it looks like now. So like total difference, like not even comparable. So like, yeah, these are totally fixable and I encourage it. Like it gives them second life and I think that's great because they're great products, especially for the price point. It's just they dry out so quickly, but you can just keep doing this like forever pretty much. Just like rehydrating them basically. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the powder products that are a little bit more difficult. So I have some Saran wrap and I have my alcohol. Let's start with the butter bronzer because it's the biggest one. So I'm gonna open this. The thing with this that's gonna really freak me out, but I've heard you have to do is you have to make sure the whole thing is like more smushed than this. Like just powder everything, pulverize it basically. So I'm just going to put this Saran wrap on top to make it a little bit easier and not like make a mess and just like keep smushing. So I'm just using the back of my brush, as you guys can see, I'm using the back of my brush to just like smush this down and to make it as powdery as I can. And I will show you guys the finished result in just a second before I add the alcohol to it. So ideally for the alcohol, if you had it in like a sprayer bottle, that would probably be easier, but I don't have one of those, so we're just gonna drip it in and do our best. But yeah, the first step here is definitely to make sure everything is totally flattened, totally smushed. All right, so now where we're at, I don't know if you guys can see, but it's like pretty much all powder. So now I'm going to take my isopropyl alcohol, open it, and then I think to make it easier, I'm gonna put some in this lid just because I feel like there's potential for bad things to happen if I go directly from the bottle. So now I'm gonna use this and just like put a little bit over the top. Obviously, like don't put too much. The quicker it'll dry, the less you put in. So I'm just going to go back on top and just like, okay, now I'm gonna mix this all together again now that I've put the alcohol in. I would make sure you do this on like a not flat, like a surface you don't mind getting dirty, because this will spill and cause huge problems for you if you are not careful. Just gonna add a little more alcohol. And then I'm gonna take this with my finger and just start flattening it because I've heard that's the best way to do this. So I've started flattening it with my finger. Once it's like flat enough that like stuff isn't coming off on my finger anymore, and it's like I can just like shape it. I'm gonna shape it to how I want and then put the plastic wrap over and do some more like fine tuning. Obviously this isn't gonna like look the way it did before and it's pretty messy and your compact is like not gonna be very beautiful unless you also go around the edges with like alcohol just to clean it up. But it should make things usable again, and because I don't wanna buy another butter bronzer when I have this perfectly good one. That's all I really need from this. So yeah, right now I'm just flattening it and trying to like smooth out the surface. So now I'm gonna take the plastic wrap and put it back on top and just really try to use that to smooth out whatever's left. So yeah, I'm just like going over it with my finger to just to smooth out those last few edges. Okay, so I think for my first attempt, this is not bad. It's flat, it's in one compact. It looks like something I could swirl my brush in again. So now I'm just gonna leave this to dry open, and it should be fully dry in a couple hours. Total drying time will depend on like how much alcohol you put in, obviously, but that's really all there is on that front. Now I'm going to grab this Alchemist palette. It's much smaller, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to smash up the powder and then add a tiny little bit of alcohol because this is so small. Okay, so same thing. This blue sapphire shade is the one that was totally powdered. I pulverized it. I added some alcohol. This time around though, I actually didn't go on top with my fingers at all initially. I just like put the alcohol on the powder and then covered it with the plastic wrap and then smushed it around with the plastic wrap on top, and then for the very last stage went out and smoothed it with my finger, and I actually think that turned out a little bit better and a little bit less messy. So I would recommend that, and I'm going to do that for the last little bit of ones I'm doing. Once again, just like leave it open so that it can dry. So yeah, okay, for these I'm going to do just these two shades. So the most powdered ones, this Pink Heart and Lucky Clover. So the pink and the green, I'm gonna do those. I'm gonna leave the rest the way they are, and if it turns out well, I'll also smash the blue moon and the star ones probably just in my own time. But because I'm just like not totally sure about the differences between like matte shades and holographic shades, I'm gonna do it. I'm willing to do this, like even though it might turn out more terrible for the really unusable powdery ones, just because it's like either way I'm not using them right now. So because I've heard, okay, so for most people I've heard this works really well, but for some people I've heard it makes shimmery shadows gummy, which is kind of my issue because I don't want that obviously. So anyway, we're trying to avoid that if possible. But I've heard from most people it works, so I guess we'll see. Okay, so I don't know if you can see, but now these are like totally smashed. And now we're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna dump alcohol on top of them. And yeah, I really wanted smaller bottles of alcohol, which is why I went to the dollar store, because I'm not, like, I feel like I'm not really gonna use this outside of this context, but oh well. And again, I think a spray bottle would be easier just because you would be able to get total saturation a lot easier and with a lot less alcohol, whereas now because I'm just dumping it, I kind of have to use more to make sure I get it in all the holes and spaces I want it to be in. Now I put the plastic wrap on top. See, I don't know if you guys can see, I'm putting the plastic wrap on top and then I'm just like smoothing it out like with my finger to get that initial like press and that initial smoothing, and then I'll go in and like make sure the shape is good with just my finger without the plastic wrap. See, so now I feel like the initial press is good. I'm gonna take the plastic wrap off. Yeah, see, it's initially like pressed, like the consistency is good. Now I'm just gonna like smooth it with my finger. Yeah, I sense I put too much of the alcohol in this Lucky Clover shade, so I'm just like, it might take a little longer to dry than the rest of them. This Pink Heart shade feels great. Feels exactly perfect, like how I'd want it to feel. Just smoothing the top and the sides. Yeah, I definitely put too much alcohol in Lucky Clover, so it's just like kind of hard to press nicely. It's like too wet. It like feels like a Jelly Much shadow, which is not what you want. So I would just, yeah, I'd just go slow. You can always add more, but it's hard to like, once you've added too much, you just have to like wait for it to evaporate, and it's kind of hard to shape it into a way that will make it smooth out nicer. So we'll see when these dry probably, but I sense that Pink Heart is gonna dry a much nicer. So these are how these two look. I'm going to leave them also to dry. And I will check back with you guys in a couple hours to see the final results and also to say my goodbyes. See you in a bit. Hi everyone, I'm back. It's been about 12-ish hours, a little less, since I finished setting these to dry, and they're definitely dry now. I'm ready to show you guys the final results. Also, sorry my makeup is smeared. It's been like 12 hours and also I cried and took a nap, so it's kind of a mess, but that's okay. Anyway, so here's where we are. So these didn't need to dry, but I will show you them anyway. Here's one of the lovely Jelly Much shadows. Totally usable now. Totally the exact same consistency. It's actually like, I feel like now that it's been a while, it's like set really nicely and like come together. So that's that. It's just beautiful. It's so nice. Just like good as new, but these were good as new like when I finished earlier. Now more importantly, let's look at the powders. So here, this is the one I think that came out the best, honestly. I think I had the right amount of press, the right amount of alcohol. Obviously, like all of these, the more effort you put into like the pressing process and the better it'll look. I kind of like, I'm gonna be honest, was a little bit lazy. I just wanted them to get pressed and be usable. I didn't really care about like appearance or making sure it was like perfectly flat or perfectly pressed, but even just like with little effort, they're totally usable in. So this blue sapphire shade, it's totally pressed. It feels exactly like it did before. And I can just like swatch it. Like right there. I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's like good as new. And then obviously this one's like literally a mess. And I could have pressed the sides better. The sides are a little bit messy and crumbly, but generally speaking, it's like way more usable than it was before. It's not just a pile of dust anymore. So I can just like swirl my finger into that center part. It feels exactly like it did before. It's mostly solid. And again, if I want to swatch, I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's like perfect. It's perfectly swatchable. It is bronzed. And then this compact is a mess, but like I said, you can just clean the compacts with just like a paper towel covered in alcohol or something. And then last but not least, here's the Moonchild palette. These are the two shades I pressed. I might go back and do the same thing with Blue Moon and Star, which are not totally like messed up, which is why I didn't do it this time, but they are crumbly. This one might still need a little bit of time to dry because I think I put too much alcohol in this, but I'm going to swatch Pink Heart once again. It's beautiful. It's like good as new. And then here is Lucky Clover, which is the one with a bit too much alcohol in it. But honestly, even that one, like, came out pretty nicely. And I think the more these set and dry, the better they are. But the point is, these went from palettes I could not use because they were so crumbly and it would make a mess every time to like totally usable palettes. Anyway, that's it. I hope this was helpful. If you have any makeup you wanted to prepare, this is how to do it. If there were any other makeup first aid videos you guys wanted me to try to investigate and figure out if things can be fixed, then let me know. And then all that being said, if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button. If you want to follow all of me on other social media platforms, you can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. And if you want to catch up with me on other videos, I post new videos every Wednesday, so please hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys all next week. Bye!